So let's talk about the taxonomy of security policies. When it comes to these security policies, they typically fall under the following 5 areas. The first being the IT policies. These would include policies concerning how to fire up a server. What IP address ranges do we use for what type of servers? How do we deploy service packs? Many of you probably deal with change requests. Well, that's an IT-based policy. Now, based off of those, we then typically see things like a general policy, which is a policy that applies to just general business purposes that are out there. Like, we don't go telling people that Billy Bob got fired. An example of general policies would be, for example, nobody talks to the press. If the press comes to talk to the company, it goes through legal, right? A great example of a general policy, I was doing some consulting work with a small city municipality. And it's very small, like the mayor's part-time, okay? And they had a directive from Homeland Security that had some specific rules about data. And so they had backup data, and their backup device was an external USB drive. And part of their policy was, you're going to laugh at this one, but, it gets the job done. They went and spray painted. I walked in and I went, why is that USB external drive painted bright red? Or is like that hunter orange? And they go, oh, well, everybody knows that if there's a disaster, somebody grab the orange box. Hey, it works. But that would be an example of a general policy. We also have partner policies. You should have some policies ready to go, security policies, when it deals with giving access to partner companies outside of your environment. What's expected, what's not expected. Every time I go to work or go to train for a training company, they send me a non-disclosure. That would be kind of a security policy. I'm not allowed to share the tools. When I was traveling around the United States teaching Homeland Security, making their transition from Novell over to Active Directory and from GroupWise over to Exchange, they gave me a set of tools, and I'm a partner with them, and we had security policies in place that actually dealt with my laptop since I had those tools. User policies, security policies, should go through and determine or should include things like password policies. How often do they rotate? How long do they have to be? Policy should also include things like who can access the network. And if Bruce Wayne accessed the network from the inside, what does he have access to? If he accesses the network through a VPN or from his home computer, maybe he only is allowed to certain resources. We don't allow him full access, especially like if it's a laptop, because what if the laptop gets stolen? All we're trying to do here is to reduce our attack surface with these policies. And then finally, we have issue-based policies. Yeah, I have issue. I have issues with Spider-Man. I have issues with... No, I'm kidding. Issues are specific situations or specific, like what do we do if we lose internet access to our... Issue-specific policies could contain things like physical security. What's the policy when we implement a new switch or we are rewiring? What is our personnel security policy? Communication. Hey, look, we're getting a new T3 in place. Well, what's the policy? Who can use it? Who gets to set it up? If a denial of service attack takes place, what do? Issue-specific. Let me give you some examples of some security policies. You should have security policies for the creation of user accounts. Who does them? What's the default password that's given? Is the account active or is it disabled until the user comes on staff? Firewalls. Who's in charge of turning the firewall into Swiss cheese? If we implement a new service and it requires some ports to be open on the firewall, who's in charge of that? What are the policies when making network connections, either between buildings or via Wi-Fi or a new service coming in? What about special access? Man, we got this one situation where Clark Kent needs access, but only for a certain amount of time. Well, what's the policy? What do they have access to? How long is it going to be in play? Remote access. This is a big one for us all the time because more and more people are becoming mobile warriors. They have access via their tablet devices. So what's the policy? Acceptable use policy. Well, here's this customer database. Can I spam everybody about my kids selling Girl Scout cookies? Probably not. Information protection policies, password policies. Man, again, you're going to hear me. I'm going to go off on you guys when it comes to passwords. Email security. What type of encryption? What type of authentication? Is a user allowed to send out email company-wide without it being monitored? And we could go on about different policies. You're probably thinking, well, I've got a policy for BYOD, bring your own device. Somebody brings in their tablet. What do you do?